Welcome, everyone, to the Tuesday, May 9 meeting of the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board. Before we get started, we have a CLERB board member, G.I. Wilson, who has requested, can you guys hear me okay?
No.
No, it's on, but okay. A CLERB board member who has requested to participate via Zoom remotely. Mr. Wilson, could you please state the reason?
I'm ill.
Okay, and is there anyone in the room over the age of 18 with you?
I'm by myself.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for participating. Appreciate it. Okay, Spriggs, could you do roll call, please?
Eileen Delaney.
Here.
Marianne Pintar. I saw her. Did she step out? Okay. Pastor Robert Spriggs Jr. here. Andrew Hayes.
Here.
Dr. Arlie Brown is not here. Nadia Keen Ayub. Thank you. Bonnie Kink.
Here.
Ariana Federico Mondragon.
Here.
Thank you. Tim Ware.
Here.
And G.I. Wilson.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. Next is public comments. It's the opportunity of members of the public to address us on any item, excuse me, within our jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. If you have not filled out a slip to speak, could you please see Val over there? Sorry, Al, I've renamed you. Val, and do we have anyone online?
Chair, we actually have 3 here in person.
Okay, we will start in person and then we will go to Zoom.
First up is Cheryl Campson.
Hi, I will be speaking in memory and honor of Mental Health Awareness Month.
Hold on one second, let's see if they.
Turn the mics.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Campson, and I will be speaking in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'll start by saying jails and prisons do not prioritize safety and therefore cannot prioritize mental health treatment, nor people who vitally need mental health care. I came here holding on to my 2 sons in a collage, which I wasn't allowed to bring in. And the reason why I have this collage or had made this collage is to highlight some of the inhumane ways people with mental health needs are mistreated in jails and prisons. People requiring mental health care are being ignored, neglected, and even beaten to death in these facilities. Mental illness cannot be beaten nor punished out of people. They must receive necessary therapies that target and address their symptoms, triggers, and behaviors. Instead, in these facilities, they are being punished for these very attached responses. Mental health treatment should not be expected to be provided by jails and prisons. Their purposes are conflicting. Mental health treatment purposes to their first priority is safety, safety first. Prisons and jails only punish, and more punish. There needs to be trained professionals providing mental health treatment and responding to mental health crises in our communities and in our facilities. In jails and prisons, people who require mental health treatment are only being exacerbated, scrutinized, punished, and even killed. Mental health treatment is absolutely an alternative to incarceration and also an alternative to violence. Mental health treatment provided adequately can absolutely save lives. Thank you.
May I ask, where were you stopped with your collage? Was it on a board or was it?
Founding initiative. I'm the founder of Treat Me, Don't Mistreat Me, and Me is MI for mental illness. And I'm the co-founder, along with Gina Burns, to Moms Against Torture.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, Yusuf Miller.
Good evening. My name is Yusuf Miller. I'm with the North County Equity and Justice Coalition and the Saving Lives in Custody campaign. And I'm here today also in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month. A lot of our families who have lost their lives of this huge crisis that we have in jail, we're suffering from mental health. I want to speak out the names of Matthew Settles, the family of Matthew Settles, the family of Gilbert Gill, and the family of Kevin Mills, and so many others of their families who are on our team who suffered from mental health at the time of the loss of that loved one. And not only that, we have family members here who represent loved ones who are suffering from mental health crisis that are still suffering now, who are survivors, but still incarcerated, like we just heard from Ms. Canson there. And then also Gina, who her son is suffering at the moment. So we want to save these lives that we actually have, that are having encounters with law enforcement, because we know that when mental health crosses and encounters law enforcement, they have a survival rate of 0 minutes. That is not from me. That is from the district attorney's blueprint on mental health reform for San Diego, that they die within 0 minutes when they intersect with law enforcement and mental health. We need a survival rate that's far, far better than that. So we're here to say that we're honoring Mental Health Awareness Month by raising the names of the family members that we support and for the people who are still living behind bars. I want to thank Paul Parker for going to represent or to find out more and represent SB 519. It's something that our organization and our families strongly support. A lot of the organizations in San Diego County on the ground and throughout other counties that I've spoken to throughout the state support as well. So thank you for that. But I would like to also keep you aware of AB 268, which is by Dr. Akilah Weber. These bills go hand in hand. They support one another. And that moving forward is something we need to keep our eye on, and we will continue to support those bills. Also, last week, there was an in-custody death, and we're looking for that CIRB. That CIRB is necessary because all we have in the media is that person lost their life or they died on the way to the shower. There's a lot missing there, a lot missing. They take that person, they put them in a wheelchair, wheel them to the shower, and they die. There's a lot missing in this story. We need public critical incident reviews, need them to be public so that we can show transparency. And lastly, we need to scan all deputies and all staff going into jails because drugs are still getting into jails, and we're seeing those reactions and response from our loved ones. Thank you.
We have one online. Saxon Rodriguez, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
Okay. Sabrina, your time starts now.
All right, thank you. Hi, Sabrina Weddle here, representing Saxon Rodriguez. I do want to state that today is National Fentanyl Awareness Day. As you guys know, fentanyl did claim the life of my brother. Unfortunately, it wasn't on the streets of San Diego. It was in San Diego County Jail, where fentanyl should have never made it. I want to say we still need to start scanning the employees. You know, there's been several deputies already arrested this year for having drugs in their possession. Fentanyl should not have claimed the life of my brother inside of jail, especially not when there was plenty of medical staff. I have a list of 8 nurses that were working that day. I also want to bring light to the death that happened recently. That's another death that has happened since we've met. At this rate, every meeting that we have, we're going to have a new death. And what that means is we're going to have more families showing up to represent their dead loved one. And these meetings are going to last till 9 o'clock. You know, and it shouldn't even matter about the time because there's so much time having to go into these funerals that nobody gets paid for. We have to pay for them. These are preventable deaths. Nobody's being held accountable. Omar Arroyo's sheriff, the sheriff that arrested him, he gets to retire and nothing will be happening yet. Tammy has a whole case going on for her husband and accountability has yet to happen. I'm going to continue to show up to these meetings. Paul, I want to say thank you for going to Sacramento and speaking for the families that suffer. I wish I was there in person today, but I'm a mother and I really need to put me and my kid first sometimes, but I'm going to still show up for Saxon Rodriguez. Again, it's National Fentanyl Awareness Month or Day, and fentanyl claimed the life of my brother in San Diego County Jail. And again, my name is Sabrina Weddle, here representing Saxon Rodriguez. Thank you.
Next up, we have Dr. Darwin Fishman. Dr. Darwin Fishman, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Your time starts.
Thank you.
now.
Darwin Fishman, he, him, his, with the Racial Justice Coalition of San Diego. Thank you. I'm back again. I wanted to start by also echoing what others have said and thanking Paul Parker with his leadership on SB 519 and his presentation of Atkins legislation. And I do hope that you guys revisit that and that you do end up supporting it formally for CRB, I mean for CLERB, and that also you connect it to the work that you've been doing, especially in terms of in-custody deaths. And a really important toolkit is giving local control, option for local control over jails, especially in terms of negotiating and working with the sheriff's department. So I wanted to acknowledge that, and I hope that continues. I also wanted to acknowledge the resolutions, the recommendations that you have passed and sent on to the sheriff's department. And I know that many of them, key ones, have either been changed or rejected. And I want to encourage you to keep pushing those and not to give up on it. And to know that, again, as the impacted families are here, it really is life and death matter. So much of the work that you're doing can improve the civilian oversight, and that it makes a huge difference. At the end of the day, if the sheriff's department, the people that are running the jails are truly held accountable, then that is ultimately the way that's going to change these in custody deaths, especially when we're talking about issues like with drugs that are taking place there, and things like whether or not all staff should be screened. And if that is properly done, not just for the inmates, but everyone that works there, then you have the likelihood of really ending the type of drugs that are in there. So I did want to share that part. And then last, I also wanted to just say that putting on my other hat, I'm also part of ATI advisory board, and that is the Alternatives to Incarceration. And we actually met in the room that you're meeting in right now last night. And we will be coming in front of the supervisors on May 23rd. And I wanted to encourage all of you to attend and to participate in that discussion about alternatives to incarceration, and look at the report that SANDAG and Public Safety Group has produced. You will see there's a direct role related and direct connection to your work. Many of you can, of course, testify to the fact that many people that are in the jails, as well as people that have died, are people that could be served better than law enforcement, that we can have alternatives to incarceration and that we can make that shift. So I'd also encourage you guys to play a role in our ATI work. Thank you again tonight for your work. And thank you, Paul Parker, again for your leadership, especially with Atkins legislation.
Next up, we have David Settles. Are you there?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Your time starts now.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. I'm David Settles. I'm the brother of Matthew Settles. Matthew died in custody in jail last August. As you know, my brother had schizophrenia. He was getting treatment in the county mental health hospital, and he was taken out, put into jail. He was assaulted. And so I'm here just representing my brother. You know, he wasn't treated. The jail was not the place for him to be treated. And, Instead, he ended up dying. So I'm here, mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm here representing my brother for the Saving Lives in Custody campaign. And thank you for all you do. That's all I have.
Next up, we have Paloma Serna. Are you there?
Hi, yes.
Hi, your time starts now.
I thank you, board members, once again to letting me speak again. My name is Paloma Serna. My daughter Elisa Serna died in Las Colinas, November 11th in 2019. I'm here to thank Paul Parker, first of all, for speaking very well in Sacramento. Thank you for all that you are doing and other board members also. But two, we need to really have the sheriff department give us more information on deaths that are still taking place in the jail. We still need to continue to fight to have every deputies, every workers that are going into the jail. We need to have them scan for drugs. And also too, we need to start pushing that the sheriff department will start prosecuting their own, because they are human beings too. They ain't perfect people the same way how we are not. So, and two, we need to get another, we need to get help for our loved ones. It is mental health awareness month. And I really do hope that we could find another solution to getting our loved ones treated. And also too, I wish that you would continue to support the two bills that Yusuf Miller mentioned, Weber's and Atkins. And also too, I'd like to thank you for all that what you are doing and helping us to get some answer and some find some type of closure. And also I hope that some of you guys will be able to attend my daughter's preliminary hearing on June 26th. It will be a 4-day. What I know is that they will be showing the video evidence of my daughter's death, most likely on the first day, but I will keep you updated with that. So once again, my name is Paloma Serna. I'm here to represent my daughter, Elisa Serna, and get justice, the Saving Life in Custody, North County Equity and Justice Coalition. Thank you.
Next up, Ms. Shawn. Ms. Shawn, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Your time starts.
Yes. Hi, my name is Sean Mills. I'm here to represent my brother Kevin Lamar Mills. He had diagnosed with schizophrenia and he died in the San Diego County Jail, November 11th, 2020. I just like to say I thank you for allow me to speak. I think with people with mental health, I don't think Kevin got the proper treatment that he needed in the county jail. And like Ms. Turner said, I hope the bills passes to make sure that this doesn't happen again and again to people with mental health, and make it easier for us to be able to get help for our loved ones that have mental illness. And again, I just like to, it's just so hard to hear so many people that's dying from mental health and and drugs and everything. And it's saddening because my brother, he should have been here. And having the wrong, and the proper and the correct information is needed when he's there. And people that had schizophrenia, there's no way that they can speak for themselves. And somehow, as family members, we should be able to come in and assist in that area. I understand that people with mental illness, they have rights too. But as family members, that doesn't have no way of helping our family members when they are in prison. Somehow that needs to change. It really does, because if they don't even really know what they're doing. And for us not able to assist or even know what's going on, and they're not getting the proper treatment or not even knowing how to treat somebody with the mental illness, it's my brother should be here today, not should have died in custody, not knowing that he was not getting the proper treatment. And this is Mental Awareness Month, but it shouldn't be just a month. It should be every day that our families should be treated and know the proper way of getting treated for their illness. So again, thank you for letting me speak. My name again is Sean Mills. I'm speaking on the behalf of my big brother, Kevin Lamar Mills, who died in custody at the San Diego County Jail, November 11th, 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Gilbert Gills. Gilbert, are you there?
That's going to be Jennifer Schmidt.
Hi, this is Jennifer Schmidt. Can you hear me?
Hi, Jennifer. Yes, your time starts now.
I'm just letting everybody aware. My dad died Valentine's Day 2022. He had dementia. We called 911 for an ambulance, and the police showed up and illegally arrested him. Took him to jail, where he died 15 and a half hours later on the cell floor, alone and by himself. Neglected, just flat neglected. And how this can happen and nobody is being held accountable is beyond me. Why the medical staff and the sheriffs that don't want to be scanned to go through the jails, integrity alone should tell you if you're not doing anything wrong, go ahead and scan them. Go ahead and, oh my God, like, that's why I don't want to be supervised. That's why they don't want the CLERB to look at what they're doing. And it is absolutely ridiculous. There has to be something else that can be done to hold them accountable, because they're murdering our loved ones and getting away with it. My name is Jennifer Schmidt. I'm here to represent my dad, Gilbert Gill. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair, there's no more requests to speak.
Okay, Mr. Parker.
We have one more.
Oh. I'm sorry. Yes. Laurie Saldana.
Good evening, and it's nice to see people face to face after quite a break of time. My name is Laurie Saldana. I was one of the people, along with Yusuf Miller and others, who recommended the state audit to look at jail practices. A couple of years ago, when I was serving in the state legislature, I used audits to investigate other situations at state agencies. And so I knew how thorough and professional their job would be. And I was very pleased that they came out with such a good report. And I hope it's been helpful as you do your work. I'm actually here today on a couple of items. Last month was Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And for many years, I've worked with other volunteers to raise awareness about ways to prevent sexual assault, and also to encourage the police department and the county to clear the backlog of sexual assault evidence kits. Just as you ensure that investigations are completed in a timely manner, we have been working to do that when it comes to sexual assault kits, because there are often evidence collected that will not only implicate the person responsible for the crime in San Diego, but you may have heard that people can be tied to crimes all around the country, up to and including serial killers and rapists. And so just because that information is collected, the evidence is collected, it's not always tested. One of the people I've worked with on this for many years what she and I communicate often online because our work schedules don't quite match up, or her work schedule. And in the course of working on this, she sent me a screenshot of a social media post that really disturbed her. And I didn't use that same social media that she does. And I'm, accustomed as a former elected official to seeing public criticism against me on different reasons. But what really bothered me was her response. It really did trigger in her anxiety. She's a survivor herself of violent crime, and seeing this really disturbed her. And I'm not going to go into details because they're not really as important as the effect that it had on her, less so on me, until I saw who posted it. And it's actually a county employee who did that. And not only was it an county employee who posted it, but people who responded to that post are appointees of the county to boards and commissions that decided that not only was this post, it wasn't something they would just pass over, but they would add their comments, including a member of this board. So I'm here today because in the course of finding out what the code of conduct is and code of ethics for all county employees and appointees, I feel that this was unfair, and it really did impact my friend in a very harmful way. And I'm not going to name names or show details. You have your work to do tonight, but I will be following up with people to ask that anyone who is an appointee as well as an employee, please, if you feel that there is harassment or a problem taking place, share that with someone who can do something about it. Don't post it on social media and attack people without a basis of solving the problem. So thank you again for your work this evening.
Yes, no more.
Mr. Parker, you have something you want to read?
I have a request or to speak, well, actually to read into the record from Deidre McLeod.
Okay.
My name is Deidre McLeod, and I'm a constituent of Supervisor Joel Anderson, District 2. My pronouns are she and her. While this board has been necessarily focused on in-custody deaths, the Sheriff's Department has moved ahead with purchasing military equipment for use in the field with little to no oversight. The Board of Supervisors accepted the Sheriff's 2023 military equipment future purchase plan at their April 4th meeting with no comment. County supervisors legally have no other say in what weaponry the sheriff uses. A community forum held days later by the Sheriff's Department was the equivalent of an air show, not an in-depth discussion of the economic, social, or legal impact of military weapons in the hands of local law enforcement. Because of this, I'm again asking CLERB to revisit adding to its core responsibilities the auditing and monitoring of Sheriff's Department's policies and procedures. If CLERB had policy auditing and monitoring oversight, residents of San Diego County would have an additional opportunity to regulate military equipment like surveillance drones, robot dogs, and chemical weapons before they're used on our people and communities.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to close then public comments, and we will go to the minutes approval for April 11. Do we have any revisions? We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, we have a second. All right, any other discussion? Could you please do roll call for us, Pastor Spriggs?
Eileen Delaney,
Yes.
Marianne Pintar,
Yes.
Pastor Robert Swiggs Jr., yes. Andrew Hayes,
Yes.
Nadia Keene Ayub, Bonnie Kink,
Yes.
Anna Federico Mondragon,
Yes.
Tim Ware, and G.I. Wilson.
Yes.
The motion carries. Thank you. And we now have the minutes from the April 24th special meeting, and I believe that Vice Chair Pintar, you had some revisions you wanted to discuss?
Yes, when I looked at, thank you. When I looked at the minutes, I thought that maybe my motion was not reflected correctly, but Mr. Parker said upon review of the tape, it was reflected correctly as to what I said. But going back to my motion, I believe that my intention was to say that we wanted to thank the senator for introducing this legislation to both improve transparency and improve outcomes. I think that I didn't say that correctly when I made my motion.
Okay, so minutes stand as, okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And that's
I'll
Mr.
second.
Hayes, okay,
I'll second.
okay, Pastor Spriggs. Any other discussion? Pastor Spriggs, call roll, please.
Eileen Delaney,
Yes.
Pintar,
Yes.
Pastor Robert Sawyer Junior, yes. Andrew Hayes,
Yes.
Nadia Keene Ayub, Bonnie Kink,
Yes.
Ariana Federico Mondrago.
Abstain.
Okay, abstain. Tim Ware
Okay.
and G.I. Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. I do not think we have any presentation or training tonight. So we will go right on to Executive Officer's report. Mr. Parker?
Thank you, Chair Delaney. Real quickly beforehand, I know that at public comment, there was a comment about not being able to have a board. The Sheriff's Department has researched that, our liaison has researched that, and my understanding is that folks can perhaps bring things into the building, however, cannot bring large items such as that into board meetings. That's something I believe the CLERB can look at, and we'll get with our counsel to see if we would allow that. That would be problematic down the road if a lot of people come in with boards or whatever. I think that's the intent, but I can't speak for the rules of the CAC, but I'm just letting you know that we did look into that, and thank you to the Sheriff's Department liaison for looking into why you were not permitted to do that. That's number one. Okay. So, and then as far as the executive officer report, I think first things first, I think, so behind me on the screen, you'll see Dwayne Bennett. Dwayne Bennett is CLERB's outside counsel, and he has been CLERB's outside counsel since Jim Sandler retired last year. So it's been almost a year. I do want to read something, as you know, that this board has been represented by county council since its inception. For the most part, since its inception, to run the board meetings and whatnot. But I want to read something. This is not attorney-client privilege. This is for the public as well. And I want to read this email that was sent by our former county council as of a couple of hours ago, Sherry Hoffman. She sent this to the CLERB board. CLERB members, some of you may have already heard that I will not be at tonight's CLERB meeting, and I will no longer be serving as CLERB's assigned counsel. My position in my office has changed over the last few months as I've moved on to the management team, and CLERB's needs have significantly increased. Both of these factors have impacted legal staffing resources. As my office works to address those issues, we anticipate the hiring of outside counsel for CLERB, who will continue my office's legacy of providing independent legal advice. My office remains confident that it can provide and has provided competent, ethical, and independent legal counsel to CLERB. At this time, CLERB's legal support needs warrant us seeking outside counsel to fulfill that role. As we move through this transition, outside counsel Dwayne Bennett will be advising CLERB for the immediate future. I very much enjoyed serving as your legal advisor and working with CLERB over the last 10 plus years. And I look forward to watching CLERB's continued success. So that was the email that Ms. Hoffman sent to all the CLERB members at 12:56 today. So to be clear, real quickly, I'd like to make a couple comments and then just tell you the next steps as far as what I've been doing as far as the executive officer in this regard. So obviously, Sherry's been the expert, right? She's been the expert on CLERB for over 10 years now. And it's a big loss for us. I valued her guidance, her opinions. I truly believe that she's guided us without conflict. It's been difficult. And members of this community and myself included have often wondered, is that the right thing to have county council representing this board? But I believe she's given us good guidance, and I believe it's been without conflict. I've trusted it, and it's a void without her being here right now. So I want to thank her. I want to thank Aurelia Rosso, Matthew O'Sullivan, Erica Cortez, and Claudia Silva, the county counsel for the county of San Diego, for what they've done to provide independent service. This is a perfect opportunity, however, for us to move forward and to have outside counsel represent this independent board. And so over the next couple of months, Dwayne Bennett has graciously said that, unfortunately, he doesn't have the ability to do this on a full-time basis, but we're going to be moving forward in an attempt to find outside counsel who can represent us on a full-time basis. So I think, so again, thanks to Sherry and county counsel for their guidance, but as we move forward, this is a new chapter for CLERB. So that's all I really have to say about that. But if anybody wants to comment, when I'm done, they can do public comment or you guys have questions or whatever. So as far as the rest of the executive officer report, myself and Sergeant Tingley and a sergeant from Internal Affairs presented last week or maybe 2 weeks ago to the Detentions and Court Services Academy. As you may recall, I used to present by myself, CLERB overview, but actually it makes more sense because the recruits in the academies, when there's a complaint, sometimes they're under investigation by 3 different entities, right? A criminal investigation, an internal affairs, and us. So over the last couple of months, it's been very successful us putting that forward together. That's worked very well. Last week, I presented to the County and City Managers Association. So the city managers and assistant city managers for just about every entity in this county were there at Sequan. I did an overview of CLERB, but more importantly of civilian oversight, because several of these entities are looking at that's a hot button topic, right? So I did that. It was very, very productive, I thought. We were there for a couple hours. Lynn and Norris assisted me, and we're there to answer some questions as well. So thank you to that. I made a presentation to the Fallbrook Rotary Club the same day. And if the chair has any comments about that, but it was an overview about CLERB and answered a lot of good questions as well about what this board does. There was a meeting that was supposed to happen. It was supposed to be a forum from Cal State University, San Marcos. It was 2 weeks ago, and the sheriff and the undersheriff, well, definitely the sheriff, and maybe some other folks from the sheriff's department were going to be there, along with some of the North County chiefs, specifically the Oceanside Police Chief, Escondido Police Chief, Carlsbad Police Chief. And it was supposed to discuss, at least my understanding, it was put on by Cal State University, San Marcos. It was the point to discuss RIPA data, Racial Identity Profiling Act, and then also deaths in custody and maybe some other issues that may that some of the community members wanted. Somehow, for some reason or other, it fell apart. Not certain why, but law enforcement pulled out of it. And so it left community members, and then I was invited too, for us not really to talk about much. We had a meeting anyway to discuss some, like how to move forward, like how to engage law enforcement in these very difficult conversations without law enforcement feeling as if they're being attacked or whatever the case might be, right? But to have these difficult conversations in public so the community can give some feedback, but so that also, quite frankly, law enforcement can give some feedback too, right? I mean, so, but that fell apart. My hope is that that somehow law enforcement and the community will come together and be able to have these meetings publicly and have some exchange of information as we move forward. So I will say that was disappointing. I think it was, quite frankly, if I may be so bold or blunt, it was a missed opportunity. It was a missed opportunity to have a good conversation. And then finally, as you all know, you folks allowed me to go to Sacramento. We'll talk more about that under our new business item when I give you an update on SB 519. As far as the workload, last month, it was a little less than the year before, but at the end of the month, we had 83 open cases, 32 death cases. We've had to look at, interestingly enough, the sheriff's department has been very good about providing us their case files, and we've talked about this before. But the medical examiner's office has not, right? We all know that there are issues with the medical examiner's office and timely completion of causes and manners of death and reports. So we contend, of course, that we can't really do much until we have that, right? We can sit here all day and give what the sheriff's department has given us in our independent review, but without the cause and manner of death. So that's how come there's been a delay in getting death investigations done on the part of CLERB. So we're hopeful that I know that the medical examiner's office is addressing this and the backlog and whatnot. And we hope that we'll have some resolution and get some completed examination and toxicology reports so we can move forward. And so the sheriff's department can move forward as well. Last month, there was one death, as was referenced in public comment. There was also one last week. There were 2 discharges of firearm last month, and there was also one the other day. So that's where we stand on those. We were notified on all of those cases. Otherwise, I sent out 3 emails containing 5 total media articles to this board, also to include the analysis done by both the Public Safety Committee and the Governance and Finance Committees at the state capitol in reference to SB 519 that was included therein. Policy recommendations. Lieutenant Perkins is, as we all know, he's only been here for a couple of weeks, so he's still getting his feet under him. His primary responsibility, he's assured me, and I know because I've met with him a few times, I know he's dedicated to getting these policy recommendation responses back. But to the members of the public who had mentioned about the CLERB reports and the screening of folks, our resubmission, those are 5 of the 10 recommendations that this board is waiting for the resolution, or at least, and I know that the LT is on top of that. Sustained finding pending responses. The reason you folks don't have those, that's on me, because I have yet to give those to officially request those from the sheriff's department. There's a case tonight, so we'll see what happens, but I'll get you the information on those so you can properly respond to those. And at this point, that's all I have for my executive officer report.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Okay, Board Chair's report. I'd like to thank the public and liaisons for attending and offering your comments. Appreciate that. I'd like to thank Sherry Council for many years of her service. We really appreciate it. I think Paul pretty much said everything that needed to be said on that, but we do appreciate everything that she's done. And with that, we will go to new business. Update on SB 519. Mr. Parker?
And real quickly, Ms. Garcia, no public comments on 5 or 6.
Oh, my apologies. Thank you. Is anyone?
Actually, we do have one
Okay.
online. Leslie Crawford.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me.
Leslie Crawford, are you there?
Yes, probably could have waited for item 7, but I am very concerned that the critical incident review board doesn't provide any information. There's a backlog with the medical examiner, so it just makes the people waiting to know what happened to their loved ones more angry and more frustrated. And so I probably could have waited till 7 because I'm hoping that the CLERB board will really back Senate Bill 519. It's really, really, really important that we get more information. And I think it's really important that there's a separate board that has some kind of power of oversight and not just to see what's wrong, but maybe make some changes. And it needs to be not just the sheriff, but any medical personnel, medical health personnel that are serving within the sheriff department facilities. Because if you can't speak to everyone there who was involved, what good is it? So I won't take much of your time, but I want to thank Paul Parker for speaking in Sacramento, because this is a vital bill. I know that Mr. Wilson thinks it's a lot of things to be solved, but we have to start somewhere. And people are dying and people are getting angry. So we really need some oversight when we have such a mental health crisis. But that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Darwin Fishman, are you there? Dr. Darwin Fishman?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Your time starts now.
Thank you. Assuming that's not, okay. Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say, I wasn't going to speak again, but I just wanted to say, I appreciate Paul Parker, what you said, and the comments about county council. I just wish you would give the public and the community, everyone, proper context so they understand, especially since, I mean, we just moved obviously with Measure B and the votes in the city of San Diego for the CRB, the Community Review Board on Police Practices, to a new CPP. And one of the main issues, and it received 80% of the vote, was the issue about the city attorney. And the point obviously is that when the city or the county is sued, the city attorney, county council are ones that basically defend them in the lawsuits. So if you have something with the sheriff's department and they're sued, that's also their defense. The issue, and of course, this is really well known and established, is the conflict of interest. If you're defending the sheriff's department, then how does a CLERB that's an independent body deal with that potential conflict of interest? And I've shared this, and this is not a secret. And I just, again, wish folks would talk openly about this. When I was on the CRB and we had the city attorney coming to our meetings, there were times that we were in session discussing cases where the city was being sued and our city attorney was defending the city in these lawsuits and did not disclose that to us. It's obviously problematic because if you're asking for legal advice and they're actively involved in a case with defending the city, it's hard for them to be a neutral arbiter. And you obviously make a case that's impossible. That's why there's been a national trend for CRBs, the civilian oversights, to get independent counsel and get that legal advice. And that's ultimately a good thing, regardless of how well they've been served by the city attorney or the county attorney. It's obviously best for, if you have an independent oversight body for law enforcement, they should have independent counsel. It shouldn't be dependent on the entity that they're a part of. So I just wanted to add that to make sure that the public is following this and understanding this and why there's been this push for independent counsels for citizen review boards. Thank you.
Ms. Garcia, hold on one second. Is there anybody else? I'd like to address the comment. Even better. So I'd like to address the comment. Doc.
I'm sorry, what is?
Yes, but I would like to address this comment beforehand, just because it was pointed out. So I want to make it very clear. Dr. Fishman is 100% correct that the trend, the right thing to do for civilian oversight, hands down all day, every day, is to have independent outside counsel. Absolutely correct. What I was saying was that this specific counsel, I am certain, provided us guidance without the conflict. He is correct, however, that it doesn't make sense, right? But I was certain that that what we were getting was without the conflict because of the existence of the ethical walls. So, but I agree, as I said in my comments, and Dr. Fishman and I agree on this, this is a perfect opportunity for CLERB to go into the next chapter of its existence, to have outside independent counsel. It's exactly what should be happening as we move forward. So I just want to clarify to make sure that everyone knows he and I are on board. Same page, same boat. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Yusuf Miller, Saving Lives in Custody campaign, and I would like to welcome Attorney Bennett to this process. I mean, independent outside investigation and outside counsel is what we've been pushing for years. And San Diegans for Justice have been asking for this and demanding this. And in the long, exhaustive report that was given to CLERB for CLERB reform had that in there. And it was really, really an important piece of transparency, independence, and we need that throughout many sectors of San Diego County. This separation so that we don't have this conflict of interest. So I only came up here to say welcome wholeheartedly Attorney Bennett to this position.
We have one more.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I had I would like to bring to your attention a specific incident that happened to one of my sons who's in Pelican Bay State Prison, who is diagnosed with schizophrenia. I want you to know it's hard to relive this and revisit it as I speak about it. But like I said, he's diagnosed with schizophrenia. On the 16th, he had an incident. He was being called for a medical emergency, and he called me Monday to tell me that he had a medical emergency the day before. And next thing he saw all these cops coming towards him, and it triggered him and it scared him because he knows that, well, he felt like they were gonna kill him. And so he blacked out, I believe, but later he told me that he had a bad response to spice. So it's very important for officers to be scanned, because how did he get spice inside the prison? He didn't bring it in, and visitors aren't allowed due to COVID. So I'm saying that to say that triggered him, and he said he blacked out, and the last thing he knows, he ended up in the hospital, Sutter Coast Hospital, a separate hospital from the prison, and they don't transport you to outside hospitals unless it's severe. And so when he called me, he told me he had a bad response to spice. He thought he was gonna die, that he overdosed. So I said, where'd you get it from? But he didn't want to disclose that. But anyway, I want you to know that wardens are not as accessible as they should be in prisons. So I tried to get a hold of the warden to let him know about the situation. I could not get to the warden. His office staff answered and referred me and transferred me to the litigation officer, who read the report of what happened to my son. and could not tell me what the initial medical emergency was because that was not their concern. All he did was tell me that my son was being irate. My son was hitting his fist like this and he was hitting his fist on the cement. And he was told to roll over and so that they could handcuff him and he wouldn't. And so I'm asking him, did you guys beat him? Was he beaten? He said, well, I don't see that. So I still have yet to know if he was beaten or harmed in that way because he has less contact with me. He can only call me once every 2 weeks. So I only heard from him one time. And I know he let me know that same officer, the litigation officer, let me know that my son would be in the hole, which is more punishment for his psychosis because it definitely triggered the psychosis, being that underlyingly he had a diagnosis of schizophrenia. And I was explaining that to the officer. I said,
I'm sorry, ma'am. Your time has expired.
okay, well, I just would welcome help in the process of getting someone to help me find out what happened to my son. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no more requests to speak.
Okay, thank you. I'm so sorry to hear that about your son, but I want to make it clear that it sounds like that was not a sheriff or San Diego County Sheriff's Detention Center. Just for clarity. Thank you. Okay. On to new business. Paul is going to give us just a little information about what he found out SB 519 when you were in Sacramento.
Thank you, Chair Delaney. Prior to going to Sacramento, I think that I was, some folks had some questions. I mean, there was a debate at the special meeting about some of the parts of it. I didn't have specific questions to follow up on when I was up there, other than the Department of Corrections component. But to be clear, just for folks who weren't here before, SB 519 is put forward by Senate President Pro Tem Atkins to basically do two things, right? To provide, to ensure that any of the reports into in-custody deaths are made public for the most part, or to include the critical incident review boards that the review board reports that the Sheriff's Department does, so that the family members and media and public can get information about everything that led up to the death of someone in custody. Right now, they are pretty much confidential, a lot of them, and a lot of families don't get a lot of information. That's number one. Number two, to allow a county to create an independent Department of Corrections to run or to manage the detention facilities in that county. This was something, and to Vice Chair Pintar, she was correct. What was mentioned last month was that Napa County is the only county that has that existing right now. And then the law was suspended. It was put on hold that counties didn't have that option. But this bill is going to reverse that and give the counties the option to have a board of supervisor have that option, to have the boards of supervisor have that option to create a Department of Corrections. The difference is that when they do, if they do, they have to cite specific reasons, whether it's an inordinate number of deaths or concerns about the care that's being provided or whatnot, but also that it would be run by an executive officer who has specific experience in running detention facilities or has that kind of knowledge. So that was the background. I think that was the main point of contention, was what exactly is going on here with the Department of Correction component. So when I was up there, for those folks who had an opportunity to watch it, I testified both days, once to the Public Safety Committee, and that was primarily about the transparency component. And then the next day was for the Governance and Finance Committee, and that was primarily about transparency, but also the Department of Correction component. Nothing has really changed since we last spoke, other than that clarification. If you have specific questions, perhaps I can answer them. But again, it's to make the death records public. It is to allow a board of supervisors to create a Department of Corrections. To Mr. Wilson's point that he made last month, it's different than the Assembly bill that is now into law that allows counties to create offices of Inspector General. Totally different. Just another tool for the county to have some kind of say over what's going on in the Department of in the jails. Because as we all know, right now, the only say is from the voters every 4 years, but in this case, 6 years at this point for the next election for the sheriff. That's all I have. I want to just let you know that Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Parker. Any public comments?
Go ahead.
Yes, on SB 519, we should put our full weight and our full support behind 519 because there's a big if. It is a downward pressure on the sheriff's department to do the right thing, to correct any issues and reforms that they need to make sure that the inmates have their constitutional rights. It's not, if approved, it automatically comes in and create this board or body or entity. It's the if factor. And that if factor has no applicability if the sheriff's department does what it's supposed to do. So a lot of people think that if this thing passes, then we're going to have this whole sea change. But no, it's a tool that we need. Right now, we have no choice. You know, whatever happens in the sheriff's department is just up to them to fix. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was clear on this big if factor and that this is an appropriate step. The only thing that is really concerning to a lot of the people that I speak to throughout the state is that this may increase the budget, law enforcement budget by a substantial amount. And that's not what we want as the community. We don't want to increase law enforcement budget. We think they have enough budget or too much budget, as a matter of fact, I should say. And that budget money should be going towards community programs instead of more incarceration. So that is a real worry from communities throughout the state, but that's something we have to talk about and figure out. But I'll just say again, lastly, it's the big if factor is the key to 519, in my opinion.
Are there any other public comments?
No, we have a couple online.
Okay.
Tom Packard, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Your time starts now.
Yeah, Tom Packard, showing up for Racial Justice, North County. I hope the material in Mr. Parker's attachment D addressed some of your concerns about SB 519. And I was going to make the same point that Yusuf Miller just made, that this simply gives the Board of Supervisors the option of establishing a Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. I believe this would enhance your ability to examine records of jail deaths, even if the prospect of the county establishing a department might enhance the sheriff's incentive to change. At your special meeting, some members raised concerns that I thought were legitimate but answerable. Mr. Wilson asked about the CLERB's current ability to hold the board accountable. If anything, this bill would enhance CLERB's ability to hold a correction department accountable through a formal chain of command where the board of supervisors could hire and fire a department head. I can't see how the sheriff as an elected official can be held more accountable in the existing system. Compared to state prisons, a new department would be accountable to our local board with policy, hiring, and budget authority. I'm encouraged about the new assistant sheriff, but I expect that she's limited by whatever the sheriff is open to change, and so far prospects are not encouraging. And I don't see another layer of bureaucracy in county government. The sheriff is already nominally a part under the public safety group, where a new Department of Corrections could easily be moved without creating another layer of bureaucracy. One addition I'd like to see to the bill is a provision that any newly established department must be operated by county staff and not by a for-profit contract prison company. County operation would allow strong oversight of all aspects of operations through the county's chain of command and leadership structure. A study could be done to compare costs of a for-profit and a county operation. Thanks for your attention.
Next, we have Leslie Crawford. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Hi, your time starts now.
Thank you. In regards to funding, CIRB, there couldn't be too much funding needed to release these to the people who have lost loved ones. I can't tell you how angry it makes me every month that passes that I can know nothing about what happened to my son last October. It's, you know, the autopsy probably wouldn't tell me anything, but something happened and I should be able to know what happened. And the fact that they hold it from me makes me think they're guilty. That's why SB 519 is important to me, and I don't think that particular item of that should be that costly. And if it gets here and it gets to the county, I will be zooming the county. Thank you very much.
Sabrina, are you there?
Hi, hello.
Hi, yes, your time starts now.
Okay, kind of just to piggyback off, hi, it's Sabrina Weddle again, Saxon Rodriguez's older sister. Saxon Rodriguez died July 20th, 2021 in San Diego County Jail. He was number 7 out of, I believe, 18 that year. I could be wrong. Again, he died off of fentanyl. The San Diego sheriffs did not do their job properly by doing their timely checks. They checked him at 65 minutes. It should have been 60. That 5 minutes cost him his life, and I no longer have my first best friend. And again, to piggyback off of what Yusuf Miller said, the if factor, if Brian Powell, Andrew Randovich, Maxwell Rimple, Andre Wanzer, these are deputies, the deputies that were responsible for my brother. If those deputies knew before they let my brother die that they would be held accountable for his death or any death that occurred in their shift, he wouldn't have died. If they would have checked him on time, he wouldn't have died. If the nurses, Melissa Burns, Reggie Barreto, Carrie Cavello, Ria Encarnacion, Caitlin Hendricks, Marilyn Bonzins, Kelly Payne, Levi Santos, and Chantel Williams, if those nurses would have known when they started their shift that they were really responsible for the lives that they were taking care of and that they need to not allow anybody to die, then they would make sure the sheriffs are also doing their job. But these sheriffs, these nurses, they know that they will not be held accountable. So that if factor, if they knew that they would be held accountable, if they knew that they could lose their jobs, if they knew that they would be on unpaid suspension because they let somebody die in their care, a preventable death, then we wouldn't be sitting here. Again, I wouldn't be on a Zoom on Tuesday meeting. I'd love to be in person, but again, I'm a mother. I have to do what I need to do, but I'm going to continue to show up for Saxon because his death was 100% preventable. He didn't bring the drugs into jail. Chula Vista PD took his drugs when they arrested him July 16th, 2021 at Harborside Park. They knew he had a problem. Arrested for something they still have no proof of. Never was found with a weapon. He was not any danger to the society. And again, I'm here to represent Saxon Rodriguez. If these sheriffs were held accountable, we wouldn't be here. And we're going to continue to be here with loved ones lost. Somebody lost a life last week. You guys have a good night.
Thank you. Chair, there are no other requests to speak.
Thank you. Board members, do you have any questions or comments before we move on? Okay. Mr. Wilson?
Yes, Mr. Parker,
Yes, sir.
could you possibly enter an opinion if the county creates a Department of Corrections, would we still have the ability to inspect the jails?
Mr. Wilson, we would. When CLERB was created back in 1990, one of the things that was put in there, it's amazing, so prescient at the time, was that if the county establishes a Department of Corrections, that this board has the exact same authority will have exact same authority over it that it currently does over the sheriff's department. So yes.
And one follow-up question. In regards to being an independent body, I believe that you were the driving force getting us out from under the public safety group where the sheriff department resides. Is that correct?
I tried a couple years ago without success. In my absence, it happened, but unfortunately, it happened because of George Floyd's murder.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Ms. Kina, you.
So I'm not as talented as some of you about dissecting policy, so I apologize if my questions come off as ignorant. But this is my concern. Creating a Department of Corrections with somebody that has law enforcement history in itself seems to me like somebody that would, again, qualify the actions versus actually looking at it from a point of view of empathy from possibly the family's view or somebody's outside view. So to me, it goes on to the idea that it is the police policing themselves again. On top of that, for me, there is no guarantee that there will be policy changes. And that's where we're running up against a wall consistently when we're examining these cases. There's no policy. When we sit there and we say, this was wrong, this is not how an officer should act, there is no policy to hold that officer accountable. Creating a new group to oversee the sheriffs, where's the guarantee that there will be accountability? I'm all for something that's going to change it. And I know that there are concessions that have to be made when there's policy, but I just don't see where there's going to be a guarantee that these policies will be changed so there's accountability.
Thank you.
Thank you for raising that. And I think I mentioned this last month, but I just wanted to address what you're saying because I see it differently. It's actually not, it would separate, I believe, based on the way I've read the bill and what the analysis that I saw, it would separate law enforcement from the corrections and incarceration department. So it wouldn't be within the sheriff's department. It would be completely separate. It would be a corrections department, which would oversee the jails. And then the sheriff's law enforcement actually going out into our neighborhoods, patrolling would be completely separate. And Paula, if you would, you can correct me if I'm wrong about that, but, and so it's not necessarily, and I think the language in the bill states that it would be someone with experience in administration of these corrections facilities. So I guess to your point, that may be law enforcement, but I also think that I don't know how you get away from having, putting someone in that position that doesn't have some sort of administrative experience overseeing corrections facilities. But I do think it actually separates law enforcement from corrections more than providing, one within the other.
And Mr. Parker.
She's exactly right. It doesn't necessarily mean that the person who would be responsible for it would be from law enforcement. What the bill proposes is that this person, whoever this person is, shall meet one of the following: one, professional experience in corrections management, or extensive familiarity with Title 15 and the national standards for jail accreditation, but also extensive familiarity with the requirements of appropriate medical and mental health care within a corrections setting, demonstrated commitment to protecting the civil and human rights of incarcerated individuals, and knowledge of best practice and evidence-based approaches to rehabilitation. So that would be the background, not necessarily a peace officer or someone with law enforcement specific experience.
So I appreciate that. I just want to reiterate, separating the two would subject the current officers to be split in two. And two, would there now be new policies in place for the Department of Corrections?
I think that would be that would be a fresh look from whoever the executive officer is that comes in with the Title 15 experience and the corrections or the corrections management experience to look at. That would probably be one would think that that would be one of the first things that they would do, right? Is to look at the policies and procedures under which these folks are going to be operating, the national guidelines, state guidelines, and then implementing those things that they feel with their knowledge and experience and with the team that they surround themselves with, who would hopefully have the same kind of experience to be able to do that. To be fair, I mean, as far as the sheriff's department, to kind of piggyback on that, right? The sheriff's department, they have people in place that are listening to the policy, and procedure recommendations that this board is making too, because there are policies that don't exist, whether it's with the sheriff's department or I'm sure with the Department of Corrections if it's created. And this board, the good thing is this board would still have the ability, as I think Mr. Wilson had said, to make these recommendations as well, because that is what we find, not just with not just with in custody situations, but even the patrol function, that there may be some policies and procedures that don't exist that we can recommend and see if those folks would implement to provide better practices. So I think it'd be the same.
Okay.
G.I. Wilson has his
Oh,
hand.
Mr. Wilson?
Something I did not think of, and I believe it was Mr. Yusuf Miller who mentioned contracting. Would that be something that the Board of Supervisors could do? Could they contract out their Department of Corrections? I did not think about that, and that sounds concerning to me.
Yeah, that'd be very concerning. I agree with Mr. Wilson and that concept. It simply lays out that the Board of Supervisors, to my understanding, that the Board of Supervisors can create this, and it specifically says who's going to run it. It doesn't say that it's for profit or not. I'll leave my personal opinion out of it at this point.
Okay. Unless we have any other comments, I'm not really prepared for us to take another vote on this. I think we need to follow this and see what happens and see what shakes out. And if you will keep us updated on this, Mr. Parker, and anything else that you report, that'd be appreciated. All right. And with that, we're going to go to the appointment of.
Madam
clerk.
Chair,
Yes.
Mary Ann had a,
Oh,
you raised your hand.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to ask my fellow board members that if you have specific questions that you feel like you need answered before being able to provide support, that you get them to Mr. Parker. So if we are to bring this back in the future, that everyone feels like they've gotten their questions and concerns answered. So, I know that he learned a lot about it while he was in Sacramento, but I don't know if he's prepared to answer every question that everybody has. But, we should make sure that you have answers to your questions should we decide to bring it back.
Thank you. And I also think some of the things, some of the suggestions and ideas, Ms. Kinayub, that you brought up and G.I. Wilson brought up as well. And maybe you could find out more about that as well. And with that, we're going to go to the appointment of CLERB Officer Ad Hoc Nominating Committee. Mr. Wilson had requested to be on it. I believe, Andrew, you had also mentioned something about that. Is there anyone else that would like to be on that committee? It's just a nominating committee for the officers for next year. No? Okay, then I guess you're a committee of two. Bonnie, was that you that?
No.
Oh, that was you reading the.
You don't want to be on a committee
Mr.
with me
Ware,
again?
would you like to be
Come
on the
on.
committee, Mr. Ware?
I would like to nominate Mr. Ware, if that's possible, to be on the committee.
Yes, thank you.
All right, sounds good. So you'll be a party of three.
Okay.
If you could meet within the next couple of weeks, and then get back to me, that'd be appreciated.
Happy to.
Me or you? Me, okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Okay, and with that, we're going to go to unfinished business, which I don't. believe-
Chair, I'm sorry. Dwayne Bennett has his hand up.
Good evening.
Mr. Bennett, yes.
Good evening, Honorable Chair and members of the commission. I would recommend that you take a vote on creating that ad hoc committee. If you have not done so, this is my first meeting with you, but a vote to create the committee would be in order pursuant to the Brown Act.
Thank you, counsel. All right, do we have a motion to have an ad hoc committee?
I move that we have an ad hoc nomination committee, please.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, we have first and second. Do we have any discussion? Council, is it okay once we vote on this, then to keep the appointments?
Yes, Honorable Chair, if the record reflects that the members of the ad hoc committee, then the vote would ratify that.
Okay, could you, yes, please.
I will restate my motion to that we form an ad hoc nominating committee to include Mr. Hayes, Mr. Ware, and
Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Wilson. I
Great,
can't
thank you.
see you, GI, so I, and Mr. Wilson.
Bonnie?
That's good with me. I'll keep my second.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Pastor Spriggs?
Yes. Eileen Delaney,
Yes.
Mary Ann Pintar,
Yes.
Pastor Robert Spriggs Jr., yes. Andrew Hayes,
Yes.
Nadia Keene Ayub,
Yes.
Bonnie King,
Yes.
Ariana Federico Mondragon,
Yes.
Tim Ware,
Yes.
and G.I. Wilson.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now on to unfinished business, and I don't believe there is any. So we'll go to board member comments. Board members, any comments about anything we have not discussed?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to once again thank the families who continue to show up here and to assure you that we hear you and we appreciate the time that you take to come and give voice to your loved ones. The Weddle family, the Settles family, the Cerna family, Sean Miller, Jennifer Schmidt, and Leslie Crawford. I'm sorry, Sean Mills. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other comments? Okay, we're going to go to Sheriff and Probation Liaison queries.
We don't have it.
You don't have anything?
Paul Parker covered everything.
Okay, board members, do we have any questions? Mr. Wilson?
Wilson has a question.
Yeah. Before, I wanted to make a comment before the sheriff's liaison speaks, but just for clarification, I may have misunderstood. I was under the impression that once Paul came back from Sacramento, we would look at the SB 519 again. So I concur with Ms. Pintar in that effort. I was under the impression that we would again review that at some point. I may be wrong, but I just wanted to make that point made.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. And yes, we will. As it goes through, we will. Mr. Ware?
Yes, I'd just like to comment on Mr. Miller. Although I don't always agree with him, I appreciate your commitment and your passion and your consistency and bringing a voice to our people, our community. Thank you.
Anyone else?
On the SB 519 issue, perhaps we just check when the next committee hearing will be for the bill. And then if the board decides to take a position or would like to, that's probably the appropriate time that you can do something before the next committee hearing. I know that in Sacramento, they appreciate that kind of stuff before a committee hearing.
Sounds good to me. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Parker will keep us updated on that. Okay, do we have any other comments or questions for probation or for Sheriff's Department? Okay. Yes.
I think last time I had asked if we could get like a presentation of how the family liaisons work, like a review of what they do, what their responsibilities are. Because I know some comments, not at the special meeting, but at the previous meeting, like family members had questions of like how they get contacted when the incident happens and what are they're there for. I think if we could have that question or someone that works as that person, that would be helpful.
Yes, you did bring that up, Sergeant Tingley with the Sheriff's Department. We've been in contact with Mr. Parker and getting a scheduled appointment for our FLO to come in here, our family liaison officer to come in and speak, to answer any questions that the board or the community may have. We have been in contact with Mr. Parker, and I think we're shooting for somewhere around June. But just so everybody does know, the lieutenant and I reached out to all the family members that were here at the last meeting that had concerns about not being contacted by our family liaison office. They've all been contacted since then and prior to as well. But they've definitely all been in contact with the sheriff's department in regards to any new information that needs to be provided. And then we've also reached out to one of our family liaison officers that's going to come here to the CLERB meeting and speak to the board as well as to the community and to how the program operates and what we have to offer the families. And we are in contact with Mr. Parker in that regards. And so we don't have anything scheduled at this moment, but I think we're looking for June. Unfortunately, we were unable to get him scheduled for this meeting because of everything that was going on and the agenda being put out. We weren't able to get him on the agenda. And in order for somebody to come speak here, we have to have him on the agenda. So as soon as we get that opportunity, we will definitely do that. And any questions that you have, if you could ask those at that time, that'd be great. As far as what Mr. Parker already spoke to on the policy recommendations, as well as the sustained findings, he is correct. We haven't received those yet, but as soon as he does, we will respond to those. And the 10 policy recommendations that the sheriff's department currently has, we are currently working on those. And I hope to have at least some of those or most of those to the board and Mr. Parker by next month. But as we know, these takes time. We put a lot of effort and thought into making sure that we're looking at all of these and giving the correct response to the board and to the public. With that said, I don't have anything else, but I do appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you.
And just for the record, we will have the presentation, I believe, in June. Lieutenant and I and Mr. Parker have exchanged emails, and we were unable to get it on the agenda this month, but next month we're planning on that. Is that still correct, Lieutenant? Okay, great. Thank you.
And as a reminder to everyone, that June meeting will be June 20th. It's later in the month. It's not the second Tuesday. It's going to be the third Tuesday. So June 20th.
20th.
And that should be happening June 20th. Thank you, Sergeant.
And also, just for board members or anyone else, if you have something that you would like to see on the agenda, a presentation or some questions or something, please either contact myself or Mr. Parker so that we can get it on the agenda, because that's where it initiates from. And with that, if there aren't any more questions, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Council Bennett, could you please read us into closed session?
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chair. There be a recommended closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54-957 to discuss various complaints or information that is protected and confidential under Penal Code Sections 832.5 through 832.7. That will be my recommendation.
Thank you very much. Council, do we need to vote on that?
No, ma'am. No, you
Okay,
don't.
I didn't think so,
You can just go ahead and accept it.
Okay, I thought so, but I wanted to double check.
Or you can reject it.
I think we'll take it. We'll take a 10-minute break and then we'll get back here for our closed session. Thank you very much. And thank you for those of you that attended. Appreciate it.
Thank you.